Hey y'all. So this is impromptu. I don't really we're just gonna go with this, okay? I don't really know what this is yet, but we're just gonna go with it. So I'm not no hair guru or anything like that. Let me not say that. I washed my hair. It's freshly washed. Put my leave in, some oil, and now I'm about to do a wash. Look at the labels. You can tell I don't do this shit. I'm about to do a wash and stay in the house because I'm not going nowhere. Trying to put my phone. So, hi. I'm not gonna talk through this because I'm just doing my hair, honestly. I just felt the need to talk, and I'm home alone. Snoop is gone, and this has been a weekend, okay? Like, this has been a weekend. So if you're in Chicago, you already know it's hot as hell outside. Summer finally decided to show up. And you know, out here, everybody's out here, but me. Um, yeah, I had plans this weekend. Not like legit plans, but like I envisioned me like doing something, being somewhere, being with people. Um, and this Pantene Pro V that we've been in has just like snatched all my edges. It's it's just I've just been going through the ringer, and I know I'm not the only one, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm doing this and like making this video. Like what I'm realizing about this weekend is like I wanted to be seen. And not only like be in the streets, I'm in a relationship, so I wasn't gonna be out here like that. But like after everything that I've been doing in quarantine, like I wanted to present myself like, hey, it's me again, new and improved, Katie 2.0. And just have that opportunity to do that. But like between my ancestors, the Orisha, spirit guides, everybody was like, no, you gonna stay in the house. And I could not, and still like don't have all of the clarity as to why. Like I tried. I was like, even if I go to the store, they're like, no. I'm like, okay, but my altar needs candles. Like y'all need a candle. You need the light. And they're like, no, not today, not this weekend. We don't. Stop spending money. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could just go for a walk. No. Like I can't go nowhere, can't do nothing. And they were just like that's exactly right. And it fucked me up. Like, okay, all right, still going. I hate it. Just like keeps going. So yeah, it like fucked me up because I worked a long week. I had tooth pain out this ass like all last week, Memorial Day weekend. Like my jaw was like Kanye, and I was in so much pain. I was crying. It was bad. It was the first bad toothache I've had since like I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and even with that, like I wasn't in pain from the actual wisdom tooth, but anywho, whatever. It was like really bad, and I felt like I was almost kind of robbed of my weekend because of it. To enjoy my 3-day weekend, like I really take my time away from like working serious because man, that's a whole another thing. But yeah, so this weekend I was just like, okay, I'm making up for lost time. I actually had like a good work week, like productive. We out here, and it's just like nothing. Okay, one of two things. It felt like nothing was coming together, but I also wasn't trying to put anything together, if that makes sense. Oh, and for the record, like, I'm gonna be reading myself down in this little video. Like, I'm gonna be going in on myself because I just need to get it out. Why I'm doing it on YouTube, I have no idea, but we're just gonna go with that part of it. But you know, so yeah. Spirit was like, you can't go out. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to work on? What do I need to do? What am I avoiding? Like, what's my assignment? And I knew there was things that, like, I haven't done. Like, I need to be applying for internships. I didn't do too much of that this week because my tooth was just hurting so bad. Like, oh my gosh. So it was just kind of hard to focus. And I was just, like, my body just feels like it's been going through it. Like, my nervous system is on 10 trillion. Like, this quarantine, like, I don't know. I guess it's just like if you were just kind of existing through this, then you may not get it. But for those who've like really been like sitting in your shit, like really sitting with yourself and like really like turning over every stone and like really digging in, and if you didn't do that, then that's no shade. I feel like a part of it for me was a choice, and then a part of it was just like, no, you're gonna do this. This is mandatory. And the work has just been like grueling, and it didn't necessarily like start in the pandemic per se, but it definitely amplified and like took it up like 17 notches from the pandemic. So I guess to just go back a little bit, and my friends know this. Y'all don't because y'all don't know me. But if my friends are watching, hey. Like, I went through some changes, as we all did. But like my path was like on some like a Candyland board game, like all those swivels and turns and shit, and then you pull a car because you stuck in the mud and then you can't move for like 4 turns and like shit like that. Like, that's what my life did. That's what my path did. Like, big ass game of Candyland. A part of me wants to say it started in 2018, but really it goes back to 2012. 2011, 2012. In 2012, my mom passed away. And in that time, and even leading up to that time, like, my life was changing. My mom was sick, so I was like a caretaker. I wasn't in school for like a semester, but my mom was like, girl, I want you to finish school. I had just failed out of SIU for the second time. Shout out to the Salukis. And yeah, I was back home. And being home was interesting. Like, I had my own apartment. I had my own everything in Carbondale. I had no job though, so I was broke. That was another thing. Like, I really struggled down there, like, more than anybody. Like, not even like my close friends. Like, I struggled. But I was home. My mom was sick, and you know, I was so thankful to God that he was just able to get me through and just let me know, like, there was just a point where my body knew, like, as time was progressing, like, you need to make peace with all of this because it's going in this direction, and just start preparing yourself. So I did. And not to like skip over like this part, but it's just so much that I'm not trying to be on here for hours. after my mom passed away, I got back into school and I got into therapy. And that was like the first big change. And what was so crazy is like even back then in 2012, I knew I needed to change. Like I knew I needed to change. I felt it. I knew it was coming. I was not ready. Like I was not ready. I was just like, no, because if I change, then I'm gonna be somebody that I don't know. And if I'm somebody that I don't know, like I may lose my friends. I may lose like everything that I have around me. I may not have changing. And I'm not ready to give that up. And so like I didn't. I just kind of kept going with this stagnant ass flow. I didn't change because I just wanted everything that I had. Like I already had lost my mom. I had lost my childhood home that I had lived at and knew my whole entire life. I felt like things like change was already doing me in, so it's just like why would I intentionally keep like making more changes? Like no. And so transitioned into my aunt's house, transitioned into Northeastern. Everything was just what it was in that moment. In that time, I was like really close with like my birth family. I ended up finding my birth family, my mom's side, and my dad's side too. I found them at that time, and I started to go to church with my birth mother. Ironically, like maybe a month before my mom passed, I met my birth mom. So, you know, like it was just a lot, y'all. A lot. A lot. I'm saying it's a lot now, and I'm emphasizing that because while I was going through it, it did not feel like this at all. Like it just felt like life. The middle of my hair be so dry. It don't be clumping. So yeah, I'm jumping around because I'm tired. Like I'm actually really tired, but want to get this out. Set out what I said I was gonna do. Graduated from Northeastern. Everything was great, except for my junior year when my biological sister was killed. And that was like the second huge, incredible, like insert any word that is like huge, big, change in my life. Because when I say like it came out of nowhere, like there's just certain things in life like you just expect not to touch you. Like the audacity as humans to think that we are not far from certain things of happening in our life. I have witnessed people close to me witness gun violence and, you know, domestic violence. But this was like up front and center in my face. And I broke. Like, I broke. That was a turning point in my life to like where I'm at now. And honestly, I'm not going to say that action did this, but you know, so we went from 2012 to 2018. So for 6 years, I was basically running away from change, like running away from my assignment that I knew I had. Like, bitch, your assignment is 6 years late. Huh? And it was in her passing, in her transition, in her elevation that everything changed. I guess this is the point where people call it an awakening. I know there's like, in the spiritual word, there's like all these like cultural buzzwords, and I guess like they're needed, they're cool or whatever, but I don't want my experience to get swallowed up in like big societal, like cultural umbrellas that we have. And so with her passing, after her passing, I I went through it. I was having what I will call now, at this point, for what I thought it was, anxiety attacks. Like, heavy. Like, maybe 1 or 2 a week. Went from not experiencing them at all to bitch can't catch your breath, like, at any given notice. Like, I was having anxiety attacks driving. I was having anxiety attacks at work. I went to school for social work, so when some of the material would trigger me, I would have an anxiety attack. I had an anxiety attack getting on the E-way, like getting on the damn Ryan. Had a whole anxiety attack. Had to get off on Halsted and call my professor. I can't come into class. Like, it was just so rough. It was so rough. It was so exhausting. I think that was the first time I also became like vulnerable too, because I was so different that I had to reach out to my aunt like for help, and that is not normal behavior of me, for something so personal, but I did. I felt I was suffering from. I'm gonna say these things now, but as the story continues, it's just gonna change up because this is something that I notice I do, is just pathologize myself, which I'm trying to do. But for the purposes of the story, a bitch was depressed. And so I ended up finding a doctor, got me on Lexapro, and life was, good. As balanced as balance can be. I didn't have many problems with the Lexapro. And this is like no knock to medication. I think when medication is needed, then it is great and it is necessary. And if you need it, then go through the steps to get it. At that time, it was needed. I was like right at the tip of not functioning. Like right at the tip where like you can clock me for like knowing something's wrong with me. It was hard in my relationship, with my friends. I just shut down. I just remember like at one point I ended up calling the hospital. Girl, you gonna cry? I remember calling the hospital because I just felt like I couldn't get rest. And that if I was in the hospital, then I can get some rest. My sister had just passed away. We had the funeral and everything. I was working full time. I was in school full time. And I was doing an internship part time. And it was so challenging. And I was so tired. And even around that time, that's when my partner lost his job. So he was in a transition too while we're going through all of this. And I just felt like I was screaming. Like I wasn't vocally screaming, but my body was screaming like, please stop. Like, please just slow down. And I just felt like I couldn't. It took me 11 years to graduate. 11 years. And I was finally at the end. And when I first found out about my sister, I was ready to. Yeah, so about school, don't know her, not coming back. Like, I was ready to give up. Like, I was just done. And it was so frustrating because after 10 years of, like, going through loss, of, like, failing out, my mom passing, even before that, my grandma passed away my freshman year. Just went through so much, and I'm just like, all this for a degree, girl? Like, I have to go through all of this for a degree? Like, just stop. I didn't know what life was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what the future looked like because in my mind, my sister was going to be there. It didn't matter if I didn't know anything else. If I knew one thing, like everybody who was in my life at that moment was supposed to be there. And that wasn't the case. That was not the case. And so I struggled. And I struggled in silence. Like my close friends, they kind of knew what was up. My family, I didn't open up too much. One thing about me is that like I'm there for everybody. Everybody. If you need me, I'm going to be there. And when I need you, I don't know how to talk, I don't know how to call, I don't know how to text, I don't know how to do anything. Like, I malfunction when I need help. Like, I malfunction. And so my grieving process was, it was like a grieving process and, you know, quote unquote, an awakening. After I graduated and got a little bit of relief, I was at my job. Shout out to Web. But I was ready to move on because I wasn't working at no shade, but I just got my degree in social work. I wasn't about to work at no damn car dealership. So I was looking for a new job. But you know, things like seemingly slowed down. And then even with my medication, like I was still taking Lexapro and I wasn't having as many anxiety attacks. So like by June, July, I just stopped taking the Lexapro, like cold turkey. FYI, don't ever do that with any medication. Like, it was dangerous. It could have went bad, but it could have went real bad. And I want to emphasize that. But for me, there was just one morning, like it first started off where just like, oop, forgot to take it. I'm gonna take it tomorrow. And then it was like 2 days, oops, I haven't taken it. I'm gonna take it tomorrow. And then there was just one day where I was in this bathroom and I heard a voice that said, like, you don't need this. And I heard it clear as day. You don't need this. And I was like, okay. I didn't question it. I stopped taking it. So I was told I didn't need it. It felt like a trusting voice. Kind of felt familiar now that I'm like kind of harkening back on it. And so I stopped taking it. And that I can pinpoint as one of the like beginning markers of like this whole thing. And then after some time, like my sister, she introduced me to crystals. Incense, I don't want to say influencers. Just like a whole other side to healing. And it was great. I remember getting my first crystal at the at the Hyde Park Silver Room block party. Shout out to the Silver Room block party. The best black ass experience of my life. But I remember getting amethyst as my first crystal. And me and her had a good time. Like, it was, it's kind of like I found it found me type of thing. Like that whole thing that they tell you, like, when picking out a crystal, like, it should be XYZ, blah, blah, blah. It was that. And it was great. I would sleep with it under my pillow. It was strong. I felt very connected to it. My dreams were popping, okay? Popping. My dreams was on point. I would sleep with it under my pillow. And that was just my thing. That was my thing. And so I read up on crystals and got more crystals, and me and my sister, we would go to crystal shops together and just kind of went through that whole thing of like healing, spirituality, like, you know, all the hashtags on the explore page, like all that. But I'm not downplaying it. It's just like I was just kind of at that baby stage, and I'm not to say that I'm super advanced now, but I was just at that stage to where I was being introduced to something different. And so that was kind of the beginning stages. And then I'm still trying to, I'm trying to remember how I like came into Haji. And I want to say Tuli, shout out to my girl Tuli, my sister. Our girl Tuli, I think she posted something about Haji Healing Salon on Facebook. And it just caught my attention. I'm like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. Went on the website. It was a beautiful website. Acupuncture, Reiki, divination, tarot. It had everything. And it was, at the time, it was on like 71st and Cottage. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, what? This Oasis? Here? The fuck? I'm like, I need to go. And so I was looking up the services, and I'm like, I don't know which one to do first. I wanted to do it all. I'm impulsive. I want, like, if I'm going to experience something, I want the entire experience. But that entire experience would probably be hundreds of dollars. So I was like, okay, Katie, pick just one thing. And so I ended up getting a divination reading with the Oshun priestess. Like, I can't even remember what made me choose that. Like, and what's so crazy is, like, before all of this, like, I used to be scared of tarot. There were experiences where tarot was done around me, and I'd be like, not on my watch, not on my watch. Like, I used to be scared of it. But, bitch, now what? Tarot me up, okay? So it was just very different. And the fact that I chose that was just like, looking back on it, like who I was and where I was at that time. And like, I think like almost freshly baptized. I think I was baptized like maybe a year in. And here I am going to an Oshun priestess. Not that that means anything, because it really doesn't. But it's just funny. It's just funny how life just takes you on these journeys. So I saw her, and she read me down, like down to the ground. Read me down. My ancestors was in all up and through that mug. Like, all up and through that mug. And I was nervous. Like, I was nervous, but it just, I also felt like that's where I was supposed to be. Like, that's what I was supposed to be doing. And we talked, and she gave me, actually, no, I don't think I had a prescription at that time. I don't think I did. I don't think so. So, yeah. I went back to her, I think maybe a few months later. And even within those few months, like, I was hearing about, like, you know, your ancestors building an altar and all that stuff. And so me and my sister were kind of like in the dabbling with that, learning up on it. And she introduced me to Juju Bay, from a Little Juju podcast. And I want to say her first episode, like her very first episode, was Ancestors First, period. And in that episode, she talked about the importance of ancestors, building your ancestor altar, and all of those things. And so again, I did it. Like, like I'm just doing these things, that had never have been in my awareness before. Never have been in my awareness before. I never heard of an Oshun, a priestess. I was just enamored by like everything I was learning. And so I want to say in 2019, I built my first altar listening to like Juju's podcast. And whether I did it right or wrong, like it was there, it existed. It's definitely not what it is now. But I did it. I wasn't consistent, it was just like, here's a candle, here's some water, just like the basics of basics. But I kind of changed up who I was following and just getting more information, more into what all of this is about. And so then I ended up getting another reading. And, at that point, she let me know, like, okay, this is how you build an altar. This is what you can do at your altar. This is how you, like, doing invocation, all of those things. And so, I started like seeing her, I think I was maybe seeing her maybe like twice a year. And in 2019, I was getting more prescriptions, and then she was having these classes to learn about, of learning about Orishas, and I was into it. Like, I was just like, okay, cool, I'm into this. And so fast forwarding to all of that now, learning about ATR, kind of transitioning out of, what's it called? Christianity. And it's not even like I was like a church going, prayer, all of that stuff. Like, I was just going through motions. Like, I really was. Like, some of these things were literally just experiences. And I think Christianity, the church, and all that stuff, it was an experience. And I'm not here to rate that experience at all, but it worked for me. When my mom passed away, and just kind of grieving, getting over that, it worked. Won't even deny that it worked. Being in the church atmosphere, especially the choir, like, gospel music will forever just do something to me. It is just a beautiful thing. And then once my sister passed away, that didn't work. It just wasn't hitting the same. It wasn't hitting the same. And I don't know if I was looking for something different, or maybe different was just like, girl, come over here. But, it just became a thing. And so this weekend kind of took me back to all of that. And this quarantine has like submerged me more into ATR and aligning with Orisha and learning about the Lukumi tradition. And these are all things, like, if you don't know, like, this ain't that. I ain't here to teach, I'm just telling you about me. It just was a big transition, another big transition from 2018, like, and like pending, like still pending, like it's still going. And so when the pandemic hit, when the panorama hit, like, I want to say, like, it sat me down and it made me realize a lot about myself. And I found a video on Twitter that was kind of described what I was going through and feeling, like so on point. And it was just talking about like spirituality and capitalism and how we should be mad at capitalism because it disconnects us so far from our body that you don't even know the gifts that you have. Because as my good sis Dana, the People's Oracle, if you do not know her, the People's Oracle, the sidereal astrologer. You know, capitalism like co-ops your body. And that you're not on, the only time that we're on is on capitalism's time. And that it's through capitalism and patriarchy and white supremacy that like we're just trying to make it, you know, like Trey Songz just trying to make it. And I was just becoming open to so much shit that was nothing like ever what I heard before, like ever. And so then within like learning about ATR, really building an altar, like, you know, got all my little odds and ends that I needed to get, being there consistently, changing their water, you know, like feeding them, all of those things. Even in that time I got into Reiki, like I do Reiki. It's so weird to say because it's like I know it, it's in me, but I also feel disconnected because my life. But no, I do Reiki. I'm taking a break because I'm tired and it's a little hot. And then learning about sidereal astrology, and then I got a new therapist. Y'all couldn't tell me nothing. Like, and this may not be for everybody, but when I say my divination and therapy situation, like the way that they mesh is so beautiful. It is the best thing ever because I'll get a reading, and if my reading says that I need to do something or focus on something or like transition from something, you know, if there's like some type of working that I need to do, then I'll take it to therapy. And thank God my therapist, like she's so open, and even though she doesn't, I don't even know if she knows about this, but wherever her level of understanding is with ATR and ancestors and Orishas and all that stuff, she may not know any of that, but she like flows with me. And that's what I always tell people about therapy. It's just like you're in the boat and they're just like helping you steer, you know, and just meeting you where you are. And she does a beautiful job of just meeting me where I'm at. A perfect example is I had to get a reading because I just had to get a reading. And that reading was not, that reading was what it was. I'm not gonna scale it. But it was what it was, and mama had some work to do, expeditiously. Actually, ooh, scratch that, cause fuck T.I. But I needed to take care of some things. And in therapy, you know, I don't know what we was talking about. Probably like work or something. But after my divination, I shot her a text like, hey, so got some divination, lots of work to do. So this is kind of the direction I want to go in and focus on and work through right now. And she was like, okay, cool. Cool. And we were able to do it. And that's how it works for me. And I don't know if that's everybody's experience. I've heard like Juju talk about it. And that like readings and divination like is not a replacement for like therapy and like speaking to a licensed professional. And like some people try to substitute that. Like they'll be going through something in their life and it's just like, okay, let me go get a reading. Let me have somebody pull some cards for me or something. Um, but like mentally, emotionally, and like just existing in the material world, like I don't want to say this. Having the tools to be able to implement what the reading put out for you. Um, because it's like if you're gonna keep getting these readings and don't know how to do the work, it's like, what are we doing? Like, what is your true, where are you trying to get at with that? And for people, and for some people that works. One thing I've noticed about me, like I'm a procrastinator. Um, okay. I procrastinate. I procrastinate. Um, I'll put things off, but when it comes to like doing something for myself, like if I get a prescription, I'm not sitting on that. I'm not. I'm sorry, because they watching, they looking, and it's just like your destiny, like Loki depends on it. Um, I don't sit on that anymore like how I may have in the past. Now there's certain things like in the material world, like in school. Baby, 11:59, okay? Me at 11:50 doing all of that. Like, yeah, it's not the best in that sense, but when it comes to like my wounds, healing, trauma, I'm like, let's go. Like, let's go there. I'm just at a place where I'm just like, let's dive. And it's like, it's not always fun and it's not for the faint of heart. But here I am. Here I am just like doing it. And that fear of who's gonna be around me while I'm going through this, it's funny because it's like I didn't even lose a whole lot. I didn't have major, okay. The losses that I did have was not what I was thinking in 2012 that I thought I was gonna lose. Like, oh, my friends and they're my family. And it's like, them niggas are still here. Did nobody go nowhere. Like some dynamics may have changed, you know? A lot of dynamics have changed. And that's not even just through me going through changes, but from 2012 to now, like, people got whole families. Like, all my friends got kids. Like, everybody's focus is just their focus. And it's like, I can't be trying to, like, stiff arm my way through to make sure, like, I'm present in their life like how I was then. Like, ugh, Katie, ugh. Okay, I'm gonna hurry this story up because I'm almost done with my hair. So this weekend kind of took me back to all of that. Kind of like, okay, took me back to the basics. Took me back to the basics. On what all of this is. Because sometimes it's like when I need to work on myself, I be dragging my feet. My ego wants to be like, woe is me. And do all of this, and just start dragging my feet around on shit. And then my ori gets hot. And then, shit starts like when I do that, like there's nothing good that comes from that. Because I'm not being punished. I'm not being punished. I'm divinely protected. I'm guided. My ancestors got me. The Orisha got me. Like, I am covered. And I can say that confidently, but it's like, now that I have these tools, like Reiki, my altar, aligning with the Orisha, now that I have all of these tools, I'm starting to realize, like, the thing that's tricky about having tools is, like, most time we only use tools when something is, like, broken, like, needs to be fixed. But when that chair just a little bit wobbly, or, when that screw is just, like, a little bit loose, you're not, oh, let me just, no, you're not reaching. You're like, oh, I got some time. oh, I could put it off. Nah, you know, let me just wait it out, see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not digging in your bag like that when things are like cool but could be better. And that's what I do. That's what I do. The moments, like, I know the moments that are like cool but could be better if I just do what I need to do real quick and dig into my bag and like handle what I need to handle in that moment. Like, no, I wait till I am on the floor passed out by myself and crawl into my desk crying to my supervisor saying that I can't breathe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wait till I just it's just a cycle, man. It's just a cycle. And it's just like, why do I do this to myself? And I know my ancestors be up there with the biggest eye roll. Like, girl, what? What are you doing? Do you not know the gifts that you possess? Do you not know the resources you have? Like, why are you pussyfooting? Why are you... I don't even know. But I feel it, and I be feeling it in my body. And once you feel something in your body, you gotta act. Because, gross. You gotta act because that negligence can just sprout so many other things that don't even, maybe don't even have to be. Like, things that you can just avoid, you know? And this quarantine, like, up to this day, has, like, forced me to feel my body. I've been disconnected from my body for a long time. A long time. Definitely when I started working, because at Crown, what was we all doing? All my Crown folks, what was we doing? Trying to stay on that clock, trying to get that overtime, trying to do all of this stuff. And it's just like, it's just like co-opting us, and we're being programmed and conditioned into capitalism. And we're still that way to this day, from 16 years old, 15 years old to now. I'm still that way, and my body is shot. Like, it is just like, please, can we just go on a hike? Please, can we just be by the water? Please, can we just rest? And here I am, like, still putting it through the ringer, and it's just like, I started to feel that resistance. And my body has been resisting a lot. And, man, Dana said something, like, what did she say? Kind of like we wager like our pain intake, to get shit done. That's not what she said, but that's just what's coming to my mind. Like, we measure things by how much pain we can take. What? And once I found out that, like, once I was just hearing these things and just kind of like sitting with my life and myself, I'm like, girl, what are you doing? What are you actually doing? I was like really upset with myself. I was guilty. I felt so bad for myself. Like, I was so guilty. I was putting my body through this. Like, I went through a thing. It felt like a death, There were a lot of moments where I had like death, like, in my body. And not like physical death, but like death of like ideas, death of like survival things I was doing. And that shit was crazy. It was trippy. It was trippy. Not crazy. It was trippy. It was a real trippy experience. But even through that, as my ES said, like, you survived. You survived everything that you went through up until this point. Like, you survived all of that. And just the affirmations I've been getting from people like especially Black women. That's huge for me. Goes back to childhood. That is not for this video. But it was huge for me. And when my therapist, she said, you know, you're a healer, Katie. Like you have something. Like you have a place in this world. And coming from a space back in 2012 where I legit concluded in my mind that I was not supposed to be on this earth, like, not to say like trigger warning suicide or anything like that. I was never like suicidal, but it was just like, why am I here? And then when I went through the passing of my mom, I remember crying. I'm like, God, just take me, like, pick me up right now. This is my address. Come get me. Because what is this? What is this? What is the point of this? This hurts so bad. I would rather be up there with my people. And it just felt like a solution. But I also didn't act into getting to that space. I just wanted somebody to like, we got you, Katie. And once I turned inward, and once I started like listening to my ancestors and just getting into this space, I'm smiling because it's just like, man, look where you came from. I'm just hearing where I came from to now. This shit's almost an hour. What the hell? Just hearing where I came from to now, it's like, I'm just so thankful, like beyond thankful, so thankful. And so, wow, you know what? And this just kind of came to me. I was really about to get on here and complain about the weekend and how it's like I wanted to go out, but it just kind of been dropped on me that this was what my weekend is supposed to be. Like, wow. This is what this weekend was. This right here. Because I had some shit for y'all. And maybe that's just another video. Maybe it's just another time. But right now, I'm kind of being guided to being reflective. And I know this shit was all over the place. And, you know, at first I wasn't going to do this. I don't know. But I'm here. I'm here. Like, we here. Son, we right here. Straight out of Compton. But, you know, I did go to the lake today. I did try to, like, attempt to like be outside with other humans. I'm already juiced up. I already got my vibranium arm, you know, fully vaxxed, and you know, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Still was trying to be socially distanced. When I say I was on the corner of the lake, like the corner, the furthest corner that you could be away from people, like that's where I was. And people were still just like all up in the mix, and I'm just like, ugh. And I left after 27 minutes and cried. And cried. Because I just felt like so alone, and it's just like, was going through those motions, but now I'm here just like reflecting on life, doing a wash and not go, like, okay, cool, spirit, if this is where y'all wanted me to be, like, cool, I accept it, I receive it. Because this was going to be a very different thing, and now we're here. So, one thing that I will say and mention, that as, like, the world is opening up, to just, like, be kind. Like, I think kindness has always been needed and, like, should be mandatory, but we are all coming out of this apocalypse, this parallelogram, this Pythagorean theorem. Like, we are all coming out of this together. Like, we all have a shared experience. And, like, there's not a lot of times that, like, collective as a world, we can say that. And everybody know. You know what I'm saying? People could try to forget, People could try to stunt and be like, no, not me. But like, no, we all went through this. And people are coming out changed. I'm going to say everybody's coming out changed. Whether you acknowledge it or not, like, everybody's coming out changed. And for the ones that know and they acknowledge, you know, they may have the capacity to be able to vocalize that, speak on that, like, you know, go to their communities and be that and invoke that. And some people, they're going to be changed and don't even know. And don't even know, you know what I'm saying? But you can see they change, but they don't know. And because they don't know how to communicate, like, it can be a whole thing. Like, it can be a whole ass thing. And it can be a lot. It can be triggering. Like, my triggers and triggers in general, it's not the person who's triggering you responsibility to make you feel better. Like, it's not. One thing, like, in ATR that I'm learning, that I wish, like, whatever your thoughts of it or feelings behind it is, like, whatever. I don't, you know, I'm not gonna get into that. It's not my battle. But there is too much of, like, putting things on people, like putting onus on people, putting your traumas on people. And some people, like, yes, they may be very well may be the source of your trauma. Trust me, I know. But that does not mean that they owe you the healing. They may not be in the space to be in it. 99.9% sure that they are traumatized too. And it could be generational, it can be all these things, whatever. And what I would just love for the world, kind of a big ask, but it's just like sitting down with yourself, sitting down with your wounds if you can. Some people can't. I think I was at a place where I couldn't, and now I'm at, like, where they at? Where they at? Let me get at them. Let me pick them. Let me peel them back. Let me analyze them. That's that Virgo moon in me. But I think we just put too much on people to, like, do for you and, like, service for you and make you feel better. Whether that's somebody that hurt you, whether that's somebody who has inflicted trauma on you. And it's hard, but it's, like, really a solo game. Like, that's what I'm learning. Like, a lot of the forgiveness that I've done in the past year hasn't even been face-to-face conversations with these people. Hasn't even been. One opportunity I did, but I had forgiven them in a dream, like, probably, like, 7 months before we even talked. And that's what it really is. I think everybody, you know, it's like we're just looking and searching to be given something. And you may not feel like your hand is out, but, like, the way that you respond, the way that you move, the way that you think, and all those things, it is, like, metaphorically, like, your hand being out. And it's just like, okay. But I mean, the audacity, you know? Like, we be having a hell of a lot of audacity on this earth, and we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. And it just ultimately hurts you. I bet you every time that you try to get something from somebody to be able to move forward, like, how many times and with how many people was that successful? I'll wait. Right? And it's because we gotta do it ourselves. That even if they don't have the capacity to, or don't want to, don't care to, yes, that shit will hurt, but you gotta keep going. And that doesn't mean you just skip over that trauma and move on to the next, because I bet you you are carrying that trauma and putting it onto somebody else. You are. We are. It's a cycle. Like, there was one morning, like, I woke up thinking about the baby boomer generation. Why? I don't know. But when I think about the baby boomer generation, what they have been through, and the limitations, especially black boomers, black Gen X, not being able to not having the capacity to, or their survival depended on them to conceal, to not feel, and it came out in their kids, their grandkids, and now it's on you, and you doing it to Tay Tay. And when Tay Tay gets bigger, if they're able to heal, then hopefully they can break that cycle. But if they can't, guess what? Guess what? It's just not gonna end. And it's like, I also hear like and see on social media all the time of like breaking generational curses. And like monetarily, yes, cool, love it. But that also like, there also needs to be sustainability in that. And with those generational curses, like, yes, like you may have blockages with money. Like that very well may be the case. You may have some ancestors that just wasn't good with money. And you're working through that and elevating them in that way. You may not think that because people don't like this. Like, as soon as people hear ancestors, they be, yeah. And it's just like, those your people. Anywho. But if you are not healing the trauma that comes with that, if you have not put new tools in your toolbox to sustain that income and to sustain whatever emotional and mental state that you need to be in, like, I'm not hearing that enough. Kudos to you. Dogecoin, whatever the fuck else, like, get it how you live. I am here for it. If you started your business, I'm here for it. You're successful. You out here breaking generational curses. You are doing things for and providing for your family in ways that you haven't done before. I love it. I also would love to hear about, well, I don't need to hear about it, but make sure you put in that same emphasis and putting that same determination into your mental health, your emotional health, your ancestors, because how do you think you got that? You know, like, how do you think you got that? How do you think you're even here to be able to obtain all of that? How many of your ancestors was beat, raped, and went through all of this trauma for you to be here, to be able to say I did it, to even utter those words? And I'm not saying you got to make a whole altar and all that other stuff, but even if you just look at the whole picture and the bigger picture, that picture is huge. 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, and it's like all on you, you know? Like, that's huge. A lot of the shit that I'm doing right now and the practices that I'm in, like, this is new. This is new for our lineage. Like, I am unaware, as of today, of any of my kin that did this work. I know they're there. They're my ancestors. They're in me. And so I'm being revealed that. But I didn't have a manual. I ain't had no grandma lap to sit on to tell me, like, this is how you do it. And a lot of, like, of the generational curses that I'm navigating through, like, that comes with healing. Because we were hurt. We were broken. Like, we were all of these things. And I'll just say, like, the healing has to come with it too. And the healing is ongoing. Like, you're never healed, ED. You're not. You're not. You're not. I'm not. I've been on this wagon for quite some time now. And I still feel like I'm at the beginning. Because you know what? Okay. I feel like I'm at the beginning because there is no end. There is no end. And for me to think that there is an end, it wouldn't keep me on my toes. You know, it wouldn't keep me sharp. Wow, so that just came to me too. But that could also be scary thinking, like, wow, I'm just doing this with, like, no end in sight. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be, gifts that you get along the way. abundance that you're going to get on the way. Lessons, most importantly, the lessons that you get on the way so that you can be ready for the next course of shit to rock your life. You know, it just is what it is. But, okay, my hair is done. I'm gonna let it air dry and then fluff it out. But, this is an hour long, like, I'll just be talking. But, yeah, I guess my overall message is just like, as we are going back into this world, being kind to yourself, being patient, finding peace within yourself. I mean, all of these things are easier said than done, but we collectively, like, we've been through some shit. And creating spaces, if you can, to talk about it. Y'all can talk to me. I love talking. And most importantly, like, just acknowledging the changes that you put in yourself. Because when you go back out in that world, there's gonna be like that, what is it called? When the foot hits the pavement, when the rubber meets the road, where you're this new person, but you're walking into situations that are familiar to your past. And what do? Do you stay that new person? Like, what if this situation is a means of survival? Do you resort back to who you were and what you were to survive? You know? A lot of it is survival. I feel like Snoop's here. A lot of it is survival, but we gonna make it. All right, y'all. Bye.